And joining us now is Minnesota's Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar, who serves on the Judiciary Committee. And thank you very much, Senator. It's good to see you.
Thanks, Andrea.
The Biden campaign released a memo Friday warning that the election will determine, quote, the fate of women's reproductive rights. And, of course, tying Donald Trump and Republicans to these abortion bans. How effective can this be when, do you think it still resonates as much as the kitchen table issues of the economy, where he's not getting as much credit as many people think he should be getting for a strong economy, but the other things that people are seeing every day?
Of course this resonates. You just heard from that Wisconsin citizen talking about her own personal story. This is the anniversary, 51st, of that day when the Supreme Court said that women had a right to control their own destinies. And now, because of this Republican-appointed Supreme Court, the Dobbs decision, that right is no longer there on a federal basis. And the results have been disastrous. You look at what just happened recently, where a North Carolina woman seeking reproductive care had to come to Washington, D.C. to get an abortion and stay in a homeless shelter. You see 14 states having all-out bans, a number of them limitations, women having to go from state to state looking for care, surges in care in certain states, 56% increase in Washington state alone, and then, as if it's not enough, the Republicans in Texas pushed through that mifepristone case, which is now headed to the Supreme Court, which would affect women not just in the states that have banned abortion, but in fact all over the country. And I think that's one important point that I know the Vice President will make today, that this can affect everyone in the country, regardless of what state you are. Their national abortion ban, the mifepristone ban, they are doubling down on their position instead of backing down.
Nikki Haley said on Sunday on Face the Nation that the threat of a national abortion ban is a lie put forth by Democrats. Let's watch.
60 senators would never approve a ban on abortion. That's a fact. That's a fact. So why put out something that's implying something's going to happen to the American people that is a lie? That's never going to happen.
Is a national abortion ban not a threat?
It is a threat. You know why? Number one, people said it wasn't a threat to get rid of Roe v. Wade, and it happened. Number two, President Trump, leading in every poll, has in the past said women should be punished, and now I guess we say to the voters of this country, who would they rather have in? Someone who has said he supported bans in the past, or someone like Joe Biden, who has made it very clear that he wants to codify Roe v. Wade into law and guarantee that women have the right to make their own decisions about their health care and not politicians.
Was it a mistake for the Biden campaign, though, to skip New Hampshire, where they could have tried to elevate this issue to voters?
You know what? That was a decision by the DNC, and from what I know, there's a major write-in effort for Joe Biden going on. I did hear the alarming news just an hour ago, where the AG, the Attorney General, Republican Attorney General, has put out an alert and warned voters that there are fake AI-created robocalls going out with Joe Biden's voice that are not true, telling people not to vote. I'm looking at what's happening right now there in that state. As someone who ran in that state, loved that state, I think that all voters should be very aware of what's going on there and should continue to vote as they plan to, because that is a major interruption, a crime, actually, if that is occurring, and it appears that it is.
Yeah, NBC was the first, Mike Memoli, to report on this, and it's very alarming. And you did very well in New Hampshire, by the way, not incidentally. Is it something that you, as a senator on Judiciary, think should be brought up as part of election security?
Yes, actually, I'm leading a bipartisan bill to ban these deep fake AI-created ads, and I have a number of Republicans on the bill. We cannot wait until the fall to do this. This is already happening, and I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. No one wants to see these fake ads where you cannot even tell, or robocalls where you cannot even tell if it's your candidate or not. It has the potential to destroy democracy if we allow that to continue. And there is a way to do it constitutionally. You obviously have to allow for satire and that kind of thing to ban these kinds of ads. Other countries are doing it, states are doing it, and we need to do the same because the federal elections are at stake, not just for the presidential race, but also the Senate and the House.